Lección 30. Verbos reflexivos. Most Spanish verbs describe an action directly done on something else. For example, comprar un chocolate, ver una película, lavar la ropa, comer una manzana. It is as if these verbs had a blank space that you need to fill in with the information of on what or on whom the action is being done. For example, comprar. It has a blank space that we need to fill in with the information of the direct object. It can be comprar un libro, un helado, o un coche. Let's take for instance the verb levantar, to lift up. We can say yo levanto, but we have to indicate what object I'm lifting up. For example, levanto pesas. I lift up weights. But if you wanted to say I lift up myself, you wouldn't say yo levanto yo. In this case, we have to use the reflexive pronoun me. Yo me levanto. It literally means I lift up myself. But this is the phrase that we use in Spanish to say I get out of bed. Another good example is the verb bañar. We can use this structure to indicate that we bathe something or someone else. For example, baño a mi perro. But if you want to say that you yourself take a bath, we wouldn't say yo baño yo. The correct form to say this is yo me baño. I bath myself. The me means myself. And even though in English there is no necessity to indicate this myself, in Spanish we do need to say it. Otherwise, it will feel like an incomplete sentence. This me is the part that means myself, and it is a reflexive pronoun, or pronombre reflexivo. So let's take a look at the rest of the reflexive pronouns. We already know that when we're using yo, we use me to say myself. For tú, we're gonna use te, yourself. Él, ella, usted, se. For él and ella, this means himself and herself. For usted, it means yourself, politely. Nosotros, nos, meaning ourselves. Ellos, ellas, ustedes, se. For ellos and ellas, this means themselves. For ustedes, it means yourselves. For example, we have yo me baño, I bath myself. Tú te bañas. Notice how not only we must use the reflexive pronoun, but also we need to conjugate the verb accordingly. So, ejercicio. Complete the sentences using the reflexive pronouns. Él se baña. Ella se baña. Usted se baña. Nosotros nos bañamos. Ellos se bañan. In previous lessons, we have already covered expressions like me llamo David. Literally, I call myself David. Or me levanto a las 8 de la mañana. I get up at 8 in the morning. But literally, I lift myself up at 8 in the morning. These expressions are used for yo. Now let's see how this works for the rest of the cases. For tú, we can say te llamas. Él se llama. Ella se llama. Usted se llama. Nosotros nos llamamos. Ellos se llaman. And to say you get out of bed, we say tú te levantas. He gets out of bed. Él se levanta. And the rest in the same pattern. This is how reflexive pronouns are used. We must conjugate the verb and also add the reflexive pronoun right before it. Ejercicio. Completa las oraciones con pronombres reflexivos. Mi vecino, my neighbor. Se llama Julio. ¿Cómo se llama tu vecino? Tengo una banda de rock con mis amigos. Nosotros nos llamamos A través del cielo. Across the skies. ¿Cómo se llaman tus hijos? What are the names of your children? ¿Cómo se llama esto? What is this called? Hola, yo me llamo Miguel. ¿Y tú? ¿Cómo te llamas? Mi compañera de trabajo se llama Cynthia. Compañera de trabajo is another form to say colleague or coworker. Now let's take a look at the infinitive form of non-reflexive verbs. For example, bañar, levantar, llamar, dormir. They have these AR, ER, or IR endings. But if we want to express the infinitive and impersonal form of a reflexive verb, we have to attach a se at the end of the word. Bañar becomes bañarse, to bathe oneself. Levantar, levantarse, to lift up oneself. Llamar, llamarse, to call oneself. Dormir, dormirse. This is especially important when looking up words in the dictionary or when using translation services. Here you can see that if we want to translate levantar, it says to lift up. But if we translate levantarse, it means to get up. And when we want to conjugate a reflexive verb, we're going to take this impersonal se ending and replace it with the corresponding reflexive pronoun. For example, bañarse, we take the se ending and replace it with me. Yo me baño. For tú, we're gonna replace that with te. Tú te bañas. And él se baña. Levantarse, again, we take the se and replace it with me. Yo me levanto. Tú te levantas. Él se levanta. Llamarse. Yo me llamo. Tú te llamas. Él se llama. The se ending in the infinitive form is only there to indicate that we are using a reflexive verb. So let's learn other common verbs that we can use in the reflexive form. For example, despertar. If we just use it like this, it means to wake up somebody else. But if we say despertarse, it means to wake up yourself. How do you say, I wake up? Me despierto. And how do you say, you wake up? Te despiertas. Then we have levantar, to lift up something. In a reflexive way, levantarse. How do you say, I get out of bed? me levanto. And you get out of bed. Te levantas. Cepillar, to brush something. We could say, for example, cepillarse los dientes. To say I brush my teeth, we say me cepillo los dientes. To me, I brush the teeth. Notice how we don't need to say my teeth, because we have already indicated that it is to myself. We can also say te cepillas los dientes. Then we have again the verb bañar. When we use it in a reflexive way, it means to take a bath, bañarse. So how do you say I take a bath? Me baño. Duchar means to shower somebody else, but ducharse, to shower yourself. How do you say I shower or I take a shower? Me ducho. Then, using the verb secar, we have secarse, to dry oneself off. Or secarse el cabello. Then with peinar, we have peinarse. Using the verb lavar, we can say lavarse el pelo, to wash one's own hair. And by the way, in the previous slide we used cabello to say hair, and here we're using pelo. The difference is that cabello is the hair on the head, and pelo is any type of hair, including the one on the head. So in this case, it is completely interchangeable. Also using lavar, we can say lavarse la cara. Or lavarse las manos. And finally we have rasurarse. Again, rasurarse. How do you say he shaves himself? Él se rasura. We also have maquillarse. How do you say she puts on makeup? Ella se maquilla. And vestirse. How do you say he gets dressed? This is actually a stem changing verb, so it is él se viste. Ejercicio. Match the reflexive verbs with the corresponding images. Lavarse las manos. Bañarse. He's just waking up, so we use despertarse. She is actually getting out of bed, so we say levantarse. Ejercicio. Suppose that your morning routine consists of the following activities and create sentences in the first person for each verb. For example, we have 7 a.m. despertarse. How do you say I wake up at 7? Me despierto a las 7. Then I get out of bed at 7:10. Me levanto a las 7:10. Me baño a las 7:15. Desayuno a las 7:30. Here we don't need to use the reflexive pronoun me, because as you can see, desayunar is not a reflexive verb. It doesn't have the se ending attached at the end. Me cepillo los dientes a las 7:50. I brush my teeth at 7:50. Me peino a las 7:55. I comb my hair at 7:55. Remember, this is a stem changing verb. Me visto a las 8:05. Here we see for the first time the verb ir in a reflexive way, and it works just like any other reflexive verb. Me voy al trabajo a las 8:15. So what's the difference between voy and me voy? Let's see that on this slide. Let's take, for example, the path from casa to trabajo. When we use the verb ir in a non-reflexive verb, it actually expresses the whole action of going from point A to point B. For example, voy al trabajo en bicicleta. Or, voy al trabajo en metro. When we use the verb ir in a reflexive way, it expresses the short action in time of leaving a place. We can say that irse means to leave. For example, me voy al trabajo a las 8. Or, me voy de la casa a las 8. As you can see, reflexive verbs are not always very intuitive to understand. Another example of this is the verb dormir and dormirse. Here, instead of having a movement through space like we did with the verb ir, we're gonna have a movement through time, from 11 p.m. until 7 a.m. And when we use the verb dormir in a non-reflexive verb, it actually expresses the whole action from the moment you fall asleep until you wake up. For example, normalmente duermo 8 horas. And when we use the verb dormirse in a reflexive way, it expresses the short action of falling asleep. Normalmente me duermo a las 11 de la noche. Ejercicio. Da tus respuestas personales a las siguientes preguntas. ¿A qué hora te levantas normalmente? You could say, for example, normalmente me levanto a las, and the specific time you usually wake up at. ¿Cuántas veces por día te cepillas los dientes? How many times a day do you brush your teeth? You could say, for example, me cepillo los dientes 2 o 3 veces por día. ¿Te peinas el cabello todos los días? Do you comb your hair every day? You could say, for example, sí, me peino el cabello todos los días, or no, no todos los días. ¿A qué hora te duermes normalmente? You could say, for example, normalmente me duermo alrededor de las 11. Alrededor de means around. Lesson finished. Continue with the next video lesson, Reflexive Verbs Part 2.